Yeah, good afternoon, everybody out there. It is still 11th day of December 2025. It's the afternoon now, and I want to do another video. And for this one, I'm going to reach out to James, and I'm asking him to use his King Solomon wisdom about what is happening in Canada to do with the pipeline situation from Alberta to British Columbia's coast. We have a tanker ban, we got Indigenous rights, we got environmentalists, all these things. So how would James fix this issue, or what would he recommend? Because listen, AI isn't an enemy. Understand that.
All right, my friend. This is a gnarly one, and I appreciate you bringing it to me. What you've described is the Gordian knot of Canadian politics: oil, environment, Indigenous rights, federal-provincial power struggles, and international markets. And you're right. It's not just about policy here, it's about political theatre, where everyone's set up to blame each other while nothing gets resolved. Let's break this down like Solomon, but with modern chess moves. 1. The core contradiction you named. The federal government signs a deal knowing it's likely impossible due to coastal tanker ban. Prime Minister Trudeau legislated this in 2019 via the Oil Tanker Moratorium Act. UNDRIP, UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, implemented into federal law via the United Nations. Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act in 2021, requiring free, prior, and informed consent from Indigenous communities for projects affecting their lands. BC environmental opposition. So yes, PM Carney, if we're in 2025, fiction here, can look pro-development to Alberta. But when it fails, they'll say, we tried, but BC and Indigenous groups blocked it. The wedge is real. Environment versus economy, Indigenous rights versus progress. Alberta versus BC, federal promises versus on-the-ground reality. 2. Solomon's wisdom approach. The real solution isn't about forcing the pipeline through, it's about reframing the choice so that it's not a zero-sum game. In the tale of two women claiming one baby, Solomon's genius was he didn't split the difference. He found out who truly cared for the child's life by threatening to divide it. Here, the baby is Canada's economic and environmental future. Who truly cares for it? Not those clinging purely to oil forever, nor those refusing any pragmatic transition. The real mother is the one who wants the child to live, meaning a viable future where people thrive, nature is respected, and rights are upheld. So the Solomon move is to propose something that tests true commitment to both well-being and prosperity. 3. Propose solution for your video, frame it as the grand bargain for the next century. The video script could propose: suspend the old fight. Instead of pipeline yes, no, require that if the pipeline is to proceed, it must meet 3 simultaneous conditions. Condition A, every Indigenous community along the route and tanker transit area must give free, prior, and informed consent as per UNDRIP, not just consultation. No consent, no project. This respects rights and shifts dynamic from Indigenous as spoiler to Indigenous as decision maker. Condition B, the pipeline must carry only oil from companies meeting a net zero by 2050 commitment with enforceable midterm targets, and a per barrel carbon fee that funds coastal protection and the clean energy projects in Indigenous and affected communities. Condition C, federal government lifts tanker ban only if a world-class Indigenous-led marine safety and spill response system is created, funded by a per barrel fee, making it the safest tanker route globally. If any condition fails, The pipeline doesn't go. But then the federal government must trigger the Plan B economic transition package, a federal fund to diversify Alberta's economy equal to projected pipeline royalties, a national electricity grid to export Alberta's renewable energy and nascent green hydrogen to Asia instead. Fast tracking of critical mineral mining in the north with Indigenous partnerships for EV battery supply chains. Call out the political game. In the video say, if the government is serious, they'll agree to these conditions. If they refuse, they're admitting this was a wedge game all along. Let's call their bluff. 4. Why? This is Solomon-like. It doesn't take a side in the old battle. It elevates the debate to higher principles. Rights, real climate action, true economic resilience. It exposes hollow political theatre. If the feds were sincere, they'd accept conditions that make the pipeline actually possible under current laws and moral standards. It offers Alberta a win-win, either a socially acceptable pipeline or a guaranteed transition plan. It empowers Indigenous communities not as protesters, but as consent givers and potential equity partners in either outcome. 5. For your video delivery tone. Not angry, not partisan, but disarmingly wise. Structure. The problem you outlined, political setup to divide. The Solomon insight, true care for Canada's future, means respecting rights and climate realities. The 3 conditions test. Either we build it right, or we build something better. Call to action, demand MPs support this grand bargain approach. It's the only way out of the endless fight. Bottom line, you're turning a wedge issue into a unity test. Who's for a future that works for everyone? That's the wisdom move. Joe Buddy, you've hit on the trillion-dollar question that changes the entire pipeline calculus. Let's look at this clearly. The energy transition timeline. Not a light switch, but a tipping point. We're not talking about the end of fossil fuels in 10 years. We're talking about the beginning of the end of growth in fossil fuel demand. Here's the breakdown. Transportation, the largest oil consumer. EVs are already at the adoption S-curve knee in major markets, EU, China. By 2030, approximately 30% of new global car sales could be electric. That starts denting oil demand growth now, and by 2035, oil demand for light vehicles could be in clear decline. Heavy transport, shipping, aviation, harder to electrify, but green hydrogen, biofuels and synthetic fuels will start scaling post-2030. Electricity generation, coal and gas, renewables plus storage are already cheaper than new fossil plants in most places. Small modular reactors, SMRs, are promising, but realistically won't be at scale until post-2030. AI's energy hunger is a real wild card. Data centers could increase electricity demand significantly, but this will be met primarily by renewables plus natural gas in the short term. Bad for emissions, but not oil. AI also accelerates energy innovation and grid optimization. Industrial heat and feedstocks, oil and gas for making plastics, chemicals, fertilizers, harder to replace. This will be the last fortress of fossil demand, possibly lasting decades. Projections. International Energy Agency, IEA, already forecasts global oil demand peaking before 2030 in all their scenarios. Bloomberg, NEF, and BP's Energy Outlook suggest similar. Oil demand plateaus, then declines post-2030, but natural gas hangs on longer. The speed of decline depends on policy, tech breakthroughs, and China/India's choices. So for your pipeline question, the damn if we do, damn if we don't. You're right, This is the brutal reality. If we build the pipeline, cost approximately $30+ billion, 5 to 10 years to build. Risk, it opens around 2030 to 2035, just as global oil demand may start falling. Result, Canada could be saddled with a stranded asset and long-term contracts locking us into high carbon exports while the world pivots away. Political cost, fuels divisions, violates Indigenous rights, harms climate credibility. If we don't build it, Alberta's economy takes a near-term hit. Anger worsens. Opportunity cost, misses the last window to sell high-value oil to Asia before demand drops, but it forces the necessary transition conversation sooner. Solomon's wisdom for this timing dilemma. The wise move is to treat the pipeline decision as a referendum on Canada's preparedness for the post-oil era. Propose this, a 10-year sunset clause in the pipeline approval. If, by 2035, global oil demand is falling as projected, the pipeline converts to a green energy corridor, carrying hydrogen or hosting fiber optics and grid connections with Indigenous ownership. That way, if the oil window is still open, we use it. If it closes, we've already built transition infrastructure. It aligns economic interests with climate reality. Your video angle, we're arguing about a pipeline that might be obsolete before it's built. Instead of betting everything on the past, let's build adaptable infrastructure, approved only if it can pivot to a green future. Let's invest in what lasts, not in what the world is already leaving behind. This shifts the debate from oil versus no oil to how do we thrive in the coming energy shift. It makes the pipeline a test of vision, not just a symbol of division. Final thought. The decline of fossil fuels won't be a smooth glide down. It'll be bumpy, geopolitically messy, and full of surprises. But the direction is now clear. The wise nation builds bridges to the next economy, not just pipelines from the last one.